Welcome back, one and all, to the Brightworks. Today, taking another look at a Beyond All Reason 8 versus 8. A first time I'm seeing this map goes by the name of Valles Marineris. Hope I'm saying that right. My Spanish accent not doing too much of a butchery. Going to be an interesting match here. Very, very low metal for an 8 versus 8, which is pretty interesting because it does mean that a lot of these players are going to be stuck on T1 for a lot longer. The micro is going to be a lot more important. And especially contesting ground is going to be extremely important. So, hoping to see some interesting plays coming out of these different teams. We've got the Blues team, of course, here on the eastern side. And the Reds here on the left. Now, it looks like, for the most part, this map features two backline spots, I would say. WinterGaming playing in the first of which, and Raytheon playing in the second of which for the red team. Tanderins and Casadelst. Casadelst? Hope you're not watching, or at least that you don't mind me butchering your name. Casadelst. Casadelste. Whatever it may be, happy to have you here and excited to see what you're going to pull out for this game. And we have Eggroll making the quickest move towards the middle of the map. I do like to see that. Early aggression going to be very important here to secure all of these tasty metal spots. There is also a single geothermal plant up here. Sort of interesting. Going to be very difficult to contest that, I imagine, or I have to imagine. So we will see who manages to get that secured. No, that makes sense. Eggroll has foregone a factory for this long in order to push his commander this far forward. Bit of a risky strategy because it does leave him rather vulnerable to early tick harassment. You can see this metal extractor is entirely unguarded and it makes up 1/2 of his total economy, which is very, very risky. Now we do see some light unit harassment going out from the blue team. We see taxation is theft, hilarious name. Moving a grunt forward, going to be able to get a little bit of scouting in. Immediately spotted and called out by priority mail. I love to see that. Good communication can mean all the difference in these games. Looks like the pawn is going to be spotted by the commander and cut off. Not going to be able to find too much with that early game unit. Now we see more and more pawns being pushed to the front lines by the various shades of blue here working together in the middle. I quite like that. Teamwork makes the dream work after all. Manatee setting up a bit of a fortified position here. Maybe expecting that his opponent is a little further up than he actually is. His opponent, Heniocopter. A lot of fun names in this game. Going for vehicles, which is a little surprising to me because his lane is very rocky, very, very much full of terrain that, well, the bots aren't going to be very useful on. Taxation is theft, making first contact with the enemy, although I suppose the grunt down here was also first contact, but first contact on the front lines of the battle anyway. Starting to set up LLTs and contest this point. Now, I would love to see him push even a little bit further, just to make sure that they don't secure these metal extractors over on their side. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it really can mean the difference between winning and losing your lane on these very, very low metal maps. Doth My Nugs getting into a little bit of trouble here by a joint harassment from Tanderin Z and Pro Australian. They managed to take out one of his metal extractors and in doing so slip a few bots past his defenses. Now it looks like they might be caught by some of these other units, and those ones up top will be murdered, taken down, destroyed. Take your pick. Tanderin's grunts are still going to be able to push through though, and it looks like they're going to be able to secure a few mech kills, which is going to be pretty devastating because once again, all of these players are going to be operating on very, very low economies. I like this strategy WinterGaming is going for here. I see these energy converters, and that's definitely a important strategy for these low metal maps to be able to convert all that excess energy that you have into something usable, i.e. metal. Pink and quite a lot of hurt here. Dark pink, or hot pink, I should say. Donkey nuts. Funny name. Wow, these grunts getting a lot more value than I originally anticipated here. Being able to sneak into this backline and actually do a lot of damage. I've talked before about how grunts can infinitely kite pawns, and this is exactly why. You see they actually outrange them, so for a while, that Grunt was able to just attack and attack and attack and build up a bunch of rank. And indeed, this one's going to be doing the same thing. It does eventually run into a light laser turret. That's going to be the end of that Grunt's life. But taking out a whole slew of different mexes for a range of different players is going to overall slow down this team quite a bit more. Now, that does mean that they're going to have a little bit more metal given to them directly from these pawns, which they can reclaim. But the economy stall is probably going to be worse off than the amount of energy that was, or the amount of metal rather, that was donated. I guess if we do the math, we can see these Grunts drop 21 metal a piece, and these metal extractors pull out 2 metal every second. So as long as you can keep these metal extractors down for enough time, that move pays for itself. We do see a constructor building a medium laser turret, the Twin Guard, which is a double light laser turret, but it does have more range. Although it looks very similar to the regular laser turret, it is in fact a little bit better. Greeding setting up a very, very forward base with his bot lab. I don't hate that. I think that's important, and it can be very, very powerful because it does mean that his reinforcements are going to hit the lane a lot quicker than his opponents. But that being said, it can also be a risky strategy because if your opponent pushes a little bit too hard when you're not expecting it, then of course you're going to be at a significant disadvantage with your bot lab taken down. Building up a little bit of energy infrastructure here. Looks like he's stalling quite a bit. No doubt that's because of these construction turrets, which once they get done building each other, they are going to be able to provide a sustainable output of build power to that facility. The lines of battle are drawn now. You can see Doth My Nugs actually securing the geothermal plant. Interesting. I really thought that would be much more contested, but it looks like Graf Grant has abandoned the idea of contesting that. Where's his units? Is he microing them somewhere, or does he just not have any? I suppose he just doesn't have any units. Uncharacteristic for this player. I've seen him around, and I know that he's capable of, well, at least playing the game to a sufficient level, so I'm a bit surprised that he just doesn't have anything out yet. I guess he has these constructors. Maybe he's thinking he'll just fortify for his teammates. Do have a nice little push coming through here. Quite a lot of carnage, so difficult to say whether this was justified or not, but definitely going to be a lot of metal there, and if they can reclaim all that, they're going to be all the better for it. In fact, let's check how much metal we have here. 918, although it's probably closer to this, maybe 750. Still a tremendous amount of metal in this sort of matchup. We're looking at 3 or 4 metal extractors. Some of these backline players operating with 1 or 2. Really, really not looking like there's much room to expand. It really is eat up your opponents as much as you can. Now, Tendarans with a huge push through here. I love these grunts moving through here. This is a massive play. Doth My Nugs risked everything to take this zone, and for what it's worth, the energy production will be tremendous. But now he's given up both of his mexes, and he also still has a sizable grunt army moving towards his base. Definitely not an ideal situation. Now, how much damage will these grunts be able to do? If they're microed properly, they could probably take out all those windmills, as well as the construction turrets. It looks like he will basically destroy the entirety of Doth My Nug's base, who is quickly starting to reclaim all this metal so that he doesn't fall off the face of the earth in terms of production. The grunts losing focus here, just striking out at whatever they can as they run by. Not getting 100% value, but definitely more than Tendaran's bargained for, and certainly putting in quite a bit of damage. Looks like Taxation is Theft managed to blow up some energy converters for J-Dog as well. He's going to find a few more. That is a nice pick-off. Now, is he going to be able to get this? If he splits up these pawns, they'll definitely be able to put up enough damage. Looks like, well, with no contest, he's definitely going to be able to get it. That explosion does destroy. Looks like he rage quit a little bit. What a bummer. Wow. It didn't even join the spectator list. Just absolutely left the game. What a bummer. Kudos to WinterGaming for taking over for this sort of bad-mannered teammate when he's already got his own troubles down south to worry about. Now, what an army here. He, in fact, did not reclaim. That's an interesting move, but it might work out tremendously for him. He did not reclaim all those units. Rather, he resurrected all of them, meaning that he's going to have a huge standing army to contest this I mean, relatively small army for Manatee, pressuring him again. We can see these grave robbers hard at work, bringing all these grunts back to life. I do love to see the little halo around those units. Ooh, when a commander goes down, that's going to be a steep price to pay. Hopefully, Heniocopter can... Heniocopter? Yeah, I guess that's right. Heniocopter can reclaim this commander. It looks like that's... Well, he was thinking about it. I wouldn't prioritize the metal extractor, but it's certainly one of the things that you want to get done here. WinterGaming seizing the opportunity to eat up that commander as quickly as you can. Yep, just focus it down. Eat up all that metal while you can. Is he going to tech into tier 2 bots? I think it's about time he does. He does technically have a tier 2 bot lab up here already, but there's no build power up here, so this is going to be extremely slow. I think the micro is getting to WinterGaming. Suddenly he's been given a position on the top of the map and the bottom of the map. I think probably the best move here would be to give all of this to Donkey Nuts or maybe one of these other players up north and let them focus on holding the northern side so that you're not stunted down here in the bottom of the map. That being said, Heniocopter does have a huge range of artillery, a nice little barrage of artillery here, and he's going to be able to put down some downright oppressive artillery fire. But, of course, those are prone to being attacked by some of the pawns and grunts and other light units. We do see hounds coming out here, which are very good against those T1 units, but they need vision, and you also need enough of them to properly counter all that. And it looks like Pro-Australian really working towards a fortification here, just trying to dig on that hound, but hounds definitely outpace the commanders. And they do enough damage to put them at risk, so that's really a pretty risky stance now for Pro-Australia now that he's seen those hounds come out. This is a substantial push, though, because it does mean that Graf Grant now has this unlimited access path all the way down to the Western team's main structures, the main economy here. You can see Raytheon's base is basically undefended by this top path, which it looks like someone has noted here. We do see the commander go down. Which commander was that, actually? That was Donkey Nuts' commander, interestingly enough. And it looks like it will mostly... Oh, it was a trade, actually. I see. So it's Pro-Australian's commander as well as Donkey Nuts' commander. They decided to trade out. Is it effective? I suppose it stops the push, at least for now. And if that metal can be reclaimed by something, then it will be well worth it. Purdy Mail is the closest commander, and that would be a good option for reclaiming all that, but it doesn't look like that's on the top of his menu right now. There's a huge push marching through the middle of the map here from Taxation is Theft. The Eastern team is looking like it's securing a bit of an advantage, although I will say this area down here is starting to stagnate a little bit, and I don't really like to see that. This Aggravator putting in quite a bit of work, doing a good amount of damage to these units, just laying in enough fire that it can't be ignored, right? You have to get your money's worth out of these artillery. They do cost quite a bit. But for what it's worth, he's definitely putting in the hurt. Taking out all of those siege units, all of these artillery vehicles is definitely a good place to start. Any free hit that you get with artillery should be taken as much as you can. This forward base is suddenly looking more and more risky as the bot numbers build up more and more here. More hounds in the middle are going to shut down that tier 1 infantry group. Doth My Nugs now realizing exactly how exposed this area is. He's going to try and rebuild these metal extractors, but he's going to be met by a lot of forces from the other team. Hopefully he's able to mop those up. Looks like he's taking a little bit of fire. D-gun misses, but his laser gun does manage to take down those grunts in the end. Doth My Nugs in a really tricky spot here. He only has one constructor left in his base, and it's working on a construction turret that he does not have the metal to pay for. So he's going to need the charity of a teammate, or either to reclaim something expensive. Maybe he can get in there and reclaim this geothermal power plant. It was a good gamble early on, but unfortunately his teammate just lost the lane that was critical to holding that position. It looks like for now, most of these units are just going to be set on repeating patrol points so that they move back and forth to confuse this artillery. But the artillery having a field day just picking apart these light laser turrets in their place. We do have some of these medium infantry bots. I do like these. They're very good for holding off those early game units. But we're probably going to be seeing some T2 factories coming up soon. So I guess when we look back at this, it does make sense why J-Dog, who was the player up here, lost his lane. He teched a little bit too early. But his sacrifice has allowed WinterGaming to secure these T2 units and use them to push back the T1 horde. So in some sense, it was a bad play from him, but I think accidentally it ended up becoming a play that might allow the Western team to hold their lines a little bit easier. We do see this grave robber as well as some butlers running around scavenging off the battlefield, which is definitely what you need to be doing on this map because those wrecks are worth a lot of metal. We do see these medium infantry pushing extremely far into this line. I don't like this move at all. That's basically just free metal lying on the ground there, whether they're resurrected or just eaten up alive or dead, I suppose. Coalstar Firelord trying to use his commander to push these units back, but honestly, the commander is already outclassed with these hounds on the field, so I would just pull it back and start using it to either build a bunch of windmills or something else. That's an interesting play. Looks like, who did that? Graf? Yeah, Graf Grant built or resurrected this wreckage, rather, which is a really nice move, allowing him to secure the energy phase. Now you can see we're 15 minutes into this game, and WinterGaming is really the only one with T2 units out. And that's really just because he has the dual economy to fund that. He now has a T2 bot lab down south as well, producing fiends and Sheldons and whatnot. So quite a tremendous micromanagement showcase here that he's able to provide enough APM to control all this properly. You can see these units here, orange and red mixing together to create a napalm of destruction. We are going to interrupt this artillery being built. That's quite expensive and a shame to say the least that we see that. This front line being torn apart quite viciously by these hounds and thugs working together. Definitely a potent mix. Commander went down, but did it take out enough of that army? I don't think so. I think there's still enough hounds and now even welders hitting the field to break that line. We do see Purple with an interesting lead here. He's got a vehicle lab as well as, well, it looks like he's eaten up his bot lab now and is just working on economy. I think for the amount of time that Graf Grant has been left alone, he really should have a slightly bigger economy than this. I'm not sure where all this is going. I guess he is up to T2, but maybe he just hasn't worked on upgrading his metal extractors yet. Sort of something you want to jump right on as quick as you can. He is working these construction bots all the way back to the enemy line, so that is sort of an interesting play that he's secured so far. Red now making it all the way to the base of, who was that there? Coalstar Firelord, who was holding the middle. And it looks like these hounds are going to make it all the way there, which is going to be quite a pain in their side. Now these pawns are shutting down these hounds. Pawns not a terrible counter if you have them in mass, but you can see the hounds do so much damage to these T1 units, blasting them away in one or two shots. Taxation is Theft talking to his team, letting them know that too many people are going T2. I agree. I think the Eastern team, although I don't think it was on purpose that the Western team coordinated their T2 so eloquently. I think it just happened to be one person went T2 way too early, and then everyone else realized they had to cover. WinterGaming played it phenomenally to take over that T2 factory and pump out T2 units to everybody. He did go around and upgrade everyone's T2 mexes, which is a great way to boost your team's economy, especially on again, these maps with such low metal. You're essentially 4 times the economy of your opponents if you upgrade all of your mexes. These welders are pushing pretty far into this base here. One of the hounds goes down, but the welder does make it to the base. And if it can get 1 or 2 strikes off on those turrets, it's going to be enough. The hound puts it in and the chain reacts. So that's all the build power really for Coalstar Firelord here. The hound and the welder eventually go down, but at basically the cost of all of Coalstar Firelord's production. He does have the T2 up here and he's starting to build up more build power production, but he doesn't have the metal for it at all, and he doesn't even have the units to reclaim, as far as I can tell. At this point, you would probably sacrifice one of these construction bots and just tell it to go start reclaiming stuff, because you really desperately need that metal. You can see his income is 7 metal per second right now, which is just not going to cut it at this stage in the game. We do see a bit of resurrection here. I like that. That's another comeback mechanic that you can utilize. These vehicles are so slow on these terrains here that I don't think it's worth building those. I really would stick to bots if at all possible. We have these Sheldons putting out a nice amount of artillery fire. But it does look like this bottom lane has essentially been pushed back here. It's quite interesting. What is the economy of dark green? Manatee, as his name would be called. He's got 20 metal per second, 749 energy. So he's got the energy. He's running some energy converters as well. He's teching. That's why his economy is so slow at the moment. I don't know if there's a solution to this. I think it would probably be better off for him to just ask for a T2 from this guy up here, Coalstar Firelord. In fact, I think the entire Eastern team could benefit from just paying for T2s. There's even a T2 vehicle lab right here. That's another great option. We also don't see any anti-air defenses. Little light anti-air defenses, but honestly, a bombing run would really devastate this economy here. You can see that it's mostly windmill powered for most of WinterGaming's southern base. Don't know about the northern one. Looks like it is mostly windmill powered as well. So these do chain react. So bombing run to take out any of these windmills, the build power, any of these chain reactors. Check out my tutorials on the tutorials page tutorials playlist if you're curious about how to do that, because this is a great example of a time where that would be absolutely phenomenal. I do hope we see some bombers coming out here from Case Delst, however his name is pronounced. Quite a lot of rocket pods being produced as well. He's thinking about anti-air, even though the entire Western team has no anti-air whatsoever. Focusing down Taxation is Theft's commander. Not a bad idea. Will it get it? Oh, he gets away with just 9 health. So unfortunate. What do we have coming out of Graf Grant? Looks like mostly building this Juno. That's kind of his focus right now. Juno and the Prosecutor. Prosecutor? Yeah, Persecutor. My apologies. This will be a nice addition to this front line. You can see this has a tremendous range, so this will really discourage these T2 units from walking around over here. Hopefully they can hold the line, although the lack of metal production here is a little bit devastating, and also all of these reclaim bots eating up all this metal is going to put more fuel in the WinterGaming fire as he pushes forward here. Definitely helping his team secure a nice advantage by keeping them off of the middle lane here. That being said, we do see this top lane being held as well with these two different players. I almost said these 2 tier 2 players, which, boy, what a sentence. Oh, it looks like the commander will go down. Looks like some hounds that broke through the front line that are going to be able to snipe that. That was Taxation is Theft's commander. And unfortunately, that means that his base is almost entirely wide open now. Rather, the Tandarin's base is almost entirely wide open. These tanks are chasing after these hounds, but the hounds are pretty quick, and I don't think the tanks get any movement bonus on here, so those hounds are going to be able to walk all the way. While laying down fire, I might add. Yeah, that's going to be dangerous. But we do have a bunch of fiends, so scratch that. I missed those, but those are going to be able to mop those up very nicely. Taking my advice and building a lot of fiends, it's something you should basically always be doing if you're Cortex. Just build a lot of fiends. They'll be useful basically everywhere on the map. This whole area is lost to a bunch of fiends, just as I'm talking about that. You can see just how powerful and just how devastating these units are, tearing through that entire fortification of structures. Looks like WinterGaming pulls the trigger. He sends his units forward. His forces forward is what I was trying to say, but boy, what a tongue twister. What a high-action game. Just a conflict everywhere that we look. We see these T1 bots going up against a welder. That's a difficult fight to fight, but they're putting in the work, and they managed to blast it down, getting that surround bonus. Fiends pushing through here and just devastating all this economy that was planned and already built there. And there's a pretty clear shot for Orange. It looks like they're booking it straight towards the vital eco of the southern eastern players. Things are picking up here, and I'm struggling to keep up with it all, but we're going to keep bringing you the live action. Looks like a lot of Sheldons are pushing in, trying to lay siege to this base. There's enough construction turrets to kind of keep this up and running as the units are sieging, but will they be enough, and will those construction turrets be found? They have the nice cover of this hill here, which is partially keeping them safe. We do see a bunch of fiends surround Dothmynug's commander and take it down as well. We see equal amounts of reclaiming from both sides, which is absolutely necessary. These thugs pushed back now, and it looks like those fiends were mopped up as well. I didn't catch what killed them, although it looks like something chain reacted and might have just exploded and killed them. Always a valid solution. It looks like there was a constructor here that meant to be given, but was not. Oh, I see. He produced the T2 and gave it to him. What a team player. We love to see that. Yeah, Taxation and staff could definitely benefit from having some T2 mexes up on the field. It might be too late, though, because they're already at quite a disadvantage from the amount of damage that has already been done on their side. You can see the amount of metal extractors that is already claimed and upgraded on this side is much, much higher than the ones on the other side. Are we seeing any sort of energy jump? Are we building towards fusion reactors, anything like that? Doesn't look like it. It looks like mostly just focusing on units at the moment. Impressive that WinterGaming is running both a Cortex T2 vehicle plant, or rather a bot lab, as well as a Armada T2 bot lab at the same time. So quite a mix of units that he's running, but impressively using them at the same time. Definitely a feat to manage. This Persecutor did end up going up and being built in the center area, so a lot of the units here are being discouraged from entering this zone by the fire of this Persecutor, who's just shelling away at a distance. I do love to see that. I think that's a great option. We see Fiends bursting through here now and able to take out all of the build power here, which means most of this is going to be vulnerable to Sheldons, which are already moving in from the north, posing quite a threat. Now they're holding on, but it's how much are they holding on to, really? I mean, this front line is being devastated by all these Sheldons, Hounds, Fiends, and others that are left over from the T1 era. So are these armies really going to be able to push this back? I don't think so. I don't think there's enough. They are trying to resurrect this commander, which is an optimistic thought, but I don't think it'll really be worth it all in the end. Looks like this big T2 push is halted by this fat boy and an army of ticks trying to hold it off. Those fat boys can be scary. Those will instantly kill all those Sheldons, so they definitely want to take their time approaching that and make sure that they don't push in too aggressively and lose their entire army to one mistake. We do see T2 eventually reached by the Eastern team here. It looks like they're sort of struggling to regain the economy. Some missed metal extractors here and there, a little bit of resurrection that should be reclaimed. You really don't want to resurrect these T1 bots. You really just want to bring in T2, start trading out more efficiently. But it's such a stranglehold on this northern side that they can't really break everything all at once. Now, I think a spearheaded attack, if all of these players in the middle here just force their way through the middle, they could definitely wipe out Kolsar Firelord's main production facility. I think that would be a tremendous option, but obviously these players don't know exactly where all that is. They kind of know the rough location here, but they don't know exactly what's there. They don't really have the vision for that. So easy for us to see from a higher level, but much more difficult for them. Now, I like this push with all these Fiends, but they're grouped up so much that the artillery is able to just burn them down so quickly. They do take down the bot lab, and quite an optimistic T2 vehicle lab, by the way, but it will eventually go down. Vehicle plant debris, while very, very, very burned down on metal, only 180 left. It's quite sad to lose that much metal in destruction, pure carnage, but I guess this is war. This fat boy pretty hurt, but putting out the firepower that this line desperately needs in order to halt the oncoming push here. Priority mail just streaming out Fiends to the front lines now, not even a care in the world for Micro, just making sure that enough firepower is being pumped in to satiate the Hounds of War. Oh, look at that. Yeah, getting some friendly fire off on the, or rather convincing the fat boy to friendly fire on his own units. Definitely a valid strategy, one that I would absolutely recommend. These Hounds managed to get into range of these Sheldons, which means that they're going to win that fight every day. Hounds, much higher damage than the Sheldon, but a little bit lower range. They're also a bit slower. Ooh, that was a really good hit from the fat boy. This fight up north is looking very tense. There's a lot of static defense wearing away at these troops, but also these gunslingers heal up, so they're gonna pull back, heal up to full, and then they'll be able to lead the charge once more. So many units being pumped out here, but I wonder what the economy is like for both teams. I did see a fusion reactor coming up here. That's very nice to see, but 4 minutes and 55 seconds. I don't know if that one's ever going to be built. Not before the game ends, anyway. Quite a substantial army here, but a lot of it is ground units, these welders that can't really get into this fight, at least not against those Sheldons and whatnot. And we do see a T3 unit out here now. So there was their eco player back here. Looks like building a fusion and a T3 gantry. Going to be able to pump out some of those extremely powerful units. Might be able to break the tie with them. This catapult going to be able to dish out a tremendous amount of damage, tear down those T2 units. sufficient to burn down this big clump of units, especially when they're well clumped up like that. It won't take them down immediately, so he does have to be careful, sort of retreat until the second shot is ready. But once it is, this is going to be quite devastating to see. We'll watch the second volley go out. It focuses on something else here. It focuses on all these Sheldons. And it gets him, finds his mark, and takes down 4 or 5 of them. Definitely a brutal weapon of war, but incredibly, incredibly powerful. Now, WinterGaming keeping up the push, making sure that the front lines are not broken. And the Eastern team holding up as well as they can. Looks like that Juno was finally used, just spamming these rockets to prevent radar and jammer and all that sort of stuff, wherever they can use them. I don't hate that. I think that's a valid use for them after a certain amount of time. You do see the front lines being held here by some T1 infantry alongside T2, so a mixture of efficiencies, I guess I would say. But overall, they are going to be able to hold, except for this lone Fiend that breaks through. Oh, there's 3 radar towers here. But the Fiend does go down. Doesn't get as much damage as maybe they were hoping for. And it looks like, against all odds, the Eastern team is holding. What a back and forth. I mean, I really can't. I mean, it's not even a back and forth. It's just a forward march from the Western team. It just feels like they're encroaching more and more and more on the Eastern team. But the Eastern team did have that tremendous play where they had already secured the top lane here. They had secured this geothermal power plant, and it just looked like they were so close to victory, and then they weren't able to finish off that push. They even still have these spy cameras up here, which might get destroyed. Oh no, this missile is going all the way back. It's sort of irrelevant to put that all the way back here, although it does do 1% damage to windmills, which is interesting. I wonder if you could launch 100 of those and blow up a bunch of windmills. I don't know if that would actually work. I mean, I have to imagine it would, I suppose. There's enough welders here to hold these off. You really do need quite a lot of fiends to beat welders. Welders are sort of the hard counter to fiends, in case you're curious about that, by the way. But that catapult, man, putting in so much damage, and we do have a couple Karganeth actually, pushing their way forward. Those Seeker rockets going to be extremely powerful, especially against those light tier 1 units. Oh, and that siege, or that fortress up there, completely demolished by the catapult and a whole band of fiends. Yeah, we've got fiends pushing through here, and there's not really anything to contest them. I hate to say it, but building blinks out of this is just not going to cut it. We really needed to see something a little bit better out of this air lab here than just the blinks, especially just setting them to land and they just die. So not the best play from Casedelst, whatever it is. Not the best play I've seen out of an air lab, but probably overstressed by all of the micro and the incredibly difficult lane contest. We do see another volley coming out from that catapult. Absolute destruction. Carnage incarnate. And we can see now more and more units being produced out of here. Some pinpointers back here for WinterGaming. I do like to see that. Also upgrading to the advanced geothermal mechs, or rather geothermal energy producer. Always good to see. We see mostly economy being built up by Karim T. I think if he just built T3 units, he would probably be able to secure this victory. A lot of Shivas would be able to push this front line with basically no contest. We do see Zars coming out, which is a good option. The Persecutor able to actually fire into that bowl there. That's kind of interesting. I wouldn't have thought that, but good to know. We do have a bunch of T1 units kind of coming up and out of that bowl, and that is going to be dangerous. We have to have some sort of response here, but do they see that? Let's check. They see the radar pings now, but they didn't know about it until a little bit too late. We'll have to see if that T1 army can be stopped. Maybe these Persecutors will swing around and fire on them, but I don't know. Oh, it's an armed exploiter. That's going to be probably more than enough to handle all this. I think, anyway. Yeah, those missiles are really devastating. So this is one of the Cortex structures that they can build. It's the armed advanced metal extractor. So alongside producing metal, a steady stream of metal, it also has a laser, which you just saw, as well as some rockets. So that's going to turtle up very nicely down there. Now these Karganeths up here taking a beating, but they pump out a pretty consistent amount of damage per second. You can see it's not devastating per se, but especially when your units are just standing still. Oh no, we've lost him. We've lost the micro. They're going to be able to tear down those tier 2 welders. Now the lone fiend here, pushing through. I would love to see this thing just running around the side here. Don't even go for the base. Just flank all the way around. You can do it, little fiend. He's not going to be able to. It was a good effort. That's one of the benefits of scouting, right? You see exactly what your enemy is doing and where their weak points are. And oftentimes you can end a game like this with a very precise strike, like running a fiend back along here and just blowing up all these windmills and all this stuff back here. You could do that with a single fiend rather than all these Karganeths and welders and all the rest of it. So that's kind of the benefit of scouting. As catapult is shelling away over here. Going to be able to put in quite a bit of work. Watch another volley of missiles. Those are so destructive. We do have a bunch of fiends running past here. This is a great snipe here. Are they going to get the economy? I think there's no way they couldn't, right? Yep, they trigger those. That's going to chain react all of the windmills. Oh, I say that. Come on, split them up. Oh, he doesn't go after the windmills. He changes targets. He runs right into a bunch of these medium laser turrets, which are just going to burn them down. Oh, that's such a disappointment. He really had the option to burn down so much of this eco for Tandarins. Tandarins. What a shame. He really could have ended purple almost entirely right there. Oh, well, I guess that means we'll get to watch this epic back and forth. Oh, and I'm missing it. WinterGaming moving in with a bunch of fiends in the back line here. These are too close. They're still going to chain react, which means that all of the energy converters are gone. The catapult pushing up and laying down a bunch of rocket bots. The commander goes down. The base, oh, there's a sumo in the base. That's going to be more than enough damage. There's no way that it's going to be able to be taken down by anything short of a bunch of T1 bots. It gets into the base, destroys an advanced metal extractor, starts targeting down the air lab. I don't think that's the play. I think you target down the builders here, the construction turrets. Yeah, there he goes. Maybe not. He really wants to get that air lab down. That might just be the unit itself. You can hit Y, I believe it is, by default, in order to manually tell a unit to target something specific. It brings up this little targeting reticle. And say I want it to focus on windmills. You click on a windmill, and it'll select that windmill for the priority target. WinterGaming now collapsing on the entire southern side. There's no more defenses down here. All of the production facilities have been destroyed. The last remaining vestiges of production are these construction turrets, which are being slowly whittled down by this Sheldon here. Looks like they're just going to be left to their own devices. But the fiends are encroaching too, and we see taxation is theft space is gone. Casa Delst is gone. Everybody is gone. The whole world is collapsing. These final construction turrets are taken down by a blast from the catapult. Overkill at its most literal, but it is what's necessary as we move forward here. These sumos soaking up the damage from this beamer light laser turret, or rather medium laser turret. Just don't even really care about that. It's a splash against their armor. The beamer does not do increased damage over a sustained. It just does a consistent amount of damage as long as it's pointed at you. It's like a laser pointer, but it hurts a little bit. WinterGaming moving in here and sweeping out from underneath alongside Kareem T. Kareem T giving the fire support that WinterGaming needs in order to efficiently sweep out the underlegs of all of these players. You can see this catapult just laying down the heat. Each of these salvos of missiles just puts in so much damage, completely burning these things down. The fiends are down, and there's a resign vote out to resign the Eastern team. Will they accept it? Looks like they want to fight to the very end. We do see sprinters moving in here. Going to try and take down this eco. Doesn't quite work, but they're optimistic. The stars are up here now, as well as mammoths. Not a bad option, but there are starlights here to burn these down, which do a tremendous amount of damage. And the mammoth goes down. The SARs are nearly dead. The SARs fall. And we're watching the fall of the great Eastern Empire. The Blues holding on to the very last, but unfortunately, the very last is just about to fall. We see Tandarins and Gref Grant. Tandarin somehow stealing a commander from somebody else. He now has a Cortex, rather a Cortex here and an Armada here, doing the very best that he can, but there's just no hope left as the army moves in, sweeping in from all sides, encroaching like a swarm of Zerg, pushing in from all angles. This final bastion holding out as long as he can up here. These persecutors putting in the damage. The fat boy, getting some satisfying hits in. That'll contribute to his damage efficiency at the very least. But the vote passes and the game is over. Congratulations to the team in red. Unfortunate that one player, J-Dog or whatever his name was, did leave the game. J-Dog, there it is. Looks like he slept longest. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Well, thank you very much for watching. This was quite an exciting match. I really couldn't even have predicted who was going to win with that early push in the top lane, as well as the aggression in the bottom, that stalemate down there. We'll take a quick look at these graphs if you want to see it. To nobody's surprise, WinterGaming stealing the lead here, followed very shortly after by Kareem T, but WinterGaming absolutely dominating this match, and I think he's stolen the show for sure, as well as our hearts, as he pushes forward to secure a victory for his team. That's going to be all, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did like and you want to see more. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you enjoy the bar content. Stay tuned for more. See you in the next one.